Hello and welcome to a new podcast. It's been quite a while since I've been able to find the time to create one of these. I'm going to talk about my new album, Beautiful World. It has quite some stories behind the making of it. It's been, I think quite possibly, it's taken the longest time on any album that I've ever made. It's close on 6 months to record it. The whole process started, or didn't start, when I decided to upgrade my studio. Like all computers, eventually they just can't handle the demands on them, and my recording studio computer was in that situation that all the music software was getting bigger and more demanding, and it just couldn't cope anymore, so it was time to upgrade. So I sold everything off that would be incompatible or just not apt anymore, obsolete, and backed up all my new writing on an external hard drive with all my personal sounds. I'm just going to digress for a minute. That's actually me singing. I thought, why not? Let's have a go. And with all the layered harmonies. This track, before it plays out and finishes, is dedicated to a close friend of mine called Cynthia, who lives in Australia. Sadly, Cynthia went through a pretty tough divorce. It's still going on. You know how these things are, they get very personal. And of course she's been very upset and traumatized, the stress of it. And it was just to remind her that she'll get through it on the other side. Grass is greener on the other side. It was just to say, you'll be alright. And that's why it's called Unbroken, because it was to tell her she isn't broken. She's still strong and she'll get through the other side a stronger person for it, and free and liberated, etc. So that's the story behind this track. Okay, to get back to my story. And backed up all this material, just chords and melodies. At that stage, this album was called Naked Soul. And when the new studio arrived, the new studio computer, I installed everything, connected it all up, got to connect my backup drive, and it failed. And I thought, oh God. And in that one moment, I'd lost the 2 albums that I'd written, Naked Soul and what will be called The Portal. I'd lost everything, including my own private sounds. And bless them, Chris Green, who you know is Witch Hazel, and Tim Rock, who you know is Threefold, came to the rescue and helped me rebuild all my sounds and libraries and get my studio operational, for which I'm eternally grateful. They're such good friends. And then I started writing this album from scratch. Not recreating what I could remember, because I couldn't remember it. It was just from scratch. I thought, okay, keep the concept, but start writing again. And I was just at the point of finishing writing all this when a contact I had managed to get the hard drive to work and rescued all the material. So I now had 2 lots, 2 different versions of Naked Soul. And it was like I was in a sweet shop. I thought, wow, I could really cherry pick here. So I chose to take the very best of the 2 albums and kick out the weaker tracks, or the weaker material. I even spliced tracks so that you had the good verse from one and a good chorus from another, and strengthened the material that way. But I also think this new studio has liberated me in a way that it's allowing me to do things I couldn't possibly achieve before. The backstory to this album is also that I've always wanted to do a more pop music influenced album. I started as a lead guitarist and a folk and pop song writer, and turned instrumental when I got older. So I've always had those influences and those roots. So I thought it'd be just fun to let that out, just to do, really go for it and see what happens. The influences behind this album are come from my teen years and maybe early 20s, and that I was listening a lot to ELO in about 78, 79, I think it was. I think they had their huge success of Out of the Blue, Mr. Blue Sky and all those kind of tracks. And the way that they had kind of carried the torch from where the Beatles left off, very melodic pop songs, and obviously influenced by the Beatles. They've actually, Jeff Lynne said that, and he's even produced the Beatles, didn't he? But of course they had this extra dynamic of the orchestra. They were very, very cleverly interweaved, and you can hear the influence here. He says, and the orchestra stopped. Oh no, there it was. It's the way that they talk to each other in different melodic lines, so you're not really aware of it, but you're hearing two melodies, and it really becomes part of the composition. You got the main melody there on that synth and the guitar before, and then you got da 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 on the orchestra, and these things go in and it becomes the second melody. And they talk to each other. Because one plays, then there's a slight pause where the other melody comes in, like there. Listen for it. It's stopped now, typical. But I had fun, a lot of fun doing this. And of course I brought in a modern drum kit for the first time. Just to give this solid, not too rocky, sort of laid back, good groove of a foot tapping drum kit, and then allowed the composition with all the instruments I usually choose, but leaving these spaces where the orchestra could talk and the solo melodies could talk to each other. Takes some doing, takes a long time to produce, but it's a lot of fun. So I can hear ELO in there. That's influenced me at some point. I also think it's just a maturity in myself. It's the sum total of all these different things I keep trying over the years, and at various stages I express them. Everything comes together in one moment. Like you've tried an album of synthesizers, you've tried an album of piano, or you've tried an album of Spanish guitar and something else. And then at some point, the experience you've gained in those different albums and different ideas, they all come together in one album. And this huge fusion of experience, the experience of doing orchestra, or orchestration, should I say, and the experience of solo guitars, different keyboards, different rhythms, and it just all gels in one sort of glorious moment. And I think that's what this album pretty well is. It's the sum total of what I've done and what I've experienced. I can also hear other influences coming in. I used to like the Cores, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, ABBA, all kinds of pop music that's just very solid and well written and well produced. And this track it's so instrumental pop music, really. The album has enjoyed lots of new techniques, and I have an absolute armada of new sounds, which is going to keep me fueled and inspired for quite a few years yet. I mean, the next album, The Portal, if this isn't your taste and you don't like the pop music influence, then the next one, The Portal, is going to be influenced by Mike Oldfield, Jean-Michel Jarre, and Vangelis. It's going to be very, very synthy, very, very mystical, very, very moody, and hopefully a continuous piece, which I've not done before. Like I do a sort of my own version of Tubular Bells or Oxygen, that kind of thing. Because I have all these new sounds and all this technology, and I can do these things now. Doesn't mean I won't go back and do sequels. Like Medicine Woman 6 will definitely happen at some point. Great Spirit 2 will happen at some point, and probably even an Emergence 2 at some point. There's not enough time. Too many ideas. The idea behind this album is very simple. There is so much hardship going on in our world right now, so much change. Almost everything is under some kind of threat or misery. People are going through some very sincerely hard times. And I think the world is challenging us and stressing us out, and there's lots of relationship problems going on, lots of financial hardship, and people falling out. And so I wanted to, without it being, how can I put it, cheap or tacky in any way, I wanted to provide an album that was like, hey, let's just chill, let's just take some time out, see things for what they are. Nothing ever stays the same. In the words of George Harrison, all things must pass. And it was a kind of, let's just give things an optimistic view for a moment and just have a happy pill. And I just wanted to provide an album that was upbeat, positive, happy, and here it is. Just to cheer everybody up and say, well, let's just enjoy the moment. Couldn't achieve that by playing panpipes and marimbas and going South American or anything else I've done, like Native American, or it had to be like this. It had to have that beat, get your foot tapping and just make you feel good. And it does. It has this habit. It's hard to feel miserable listening to this. Something else I enjoyed doing on this album is playing the guitars. The new processors and microphones and inputs and all kinds of technical bumps I won't bore you with allowed me to record the strumming of the guitar in a much better way. It's got this energy and vibrance to it now. I also have this whole new setup for the electric guitar that has allowed me to give it so many different characteristics and voices now. There's a bit coming up. Here we go. Isn't that very 1960s, or is it me? Like the Birds with Tambourine Man, or... You hear that style on quite a few pop songs these days. But it essentially goes back to the 60s and the Beatles and the Birds, people like that. And again, that's crept into this album as an influence. So I was brought up on the Beatles. This track demonstrates quite well some of the new sounds I have. The cello. Something about a cello that is so mournful, graceful, bittersweet. And because I write and enjoy writing so melodically, I was really able to make really good use of a cello. There's the ELO touch again. And for those of you with really good meticulous hearing, if you listen to the bass, it's very much how Paul McCartney plays bass in the Beatles. The electric guitars on this album are performed on a Washburn guitar, which is semi-acoustic. It means that's got like holes in the body. You can actually hear it unplugged, as if it was an acoustic guitar. That bass going, that's so like Paul McCartney and the Beatles, kind of pushing the beat. It's a little bit like my dream project, really. If you had Vangelis on the synthesizer, Mark Knopfler on electric guitar, John Williams on Spanish guitar, Paul McCartney on bass, and ELO doing the orchestra. I don't know if sad is the right word, but this is the only quieter, softer track on the album, called Endgame. When I first wrote this, I called it Rain in Paris. It just seemed like a film score. So that kind of, if you imagine it raining in a city. And I renamed it Endgame as a nod to the times we live in. This album's very much about now. And I called it Endgame because it's almost like there is a game of chess being played out there. There are powers beyond what we can imagine and what we can see. Hidden secrets, hidden governments, hidden agendas, all playing out and collapsing. And I think over time, hopefully a short time rather than a long time, I think humanity will rebirth itself. There'll be a different way of living, a different social construct. I think everything is destined to work itself out, and we're in those birthing pains, if you like. The darkness before the light, that's another way of seeing it. Things have to get bad and collapse for us to finally say, enough is enough. We've got to change things. And those that are trying to change things will eventually work it out. Now the guitar again, if I come back to it. This Washburn guitar. I'm playing with my right hand, my right forefinger with the fingernail on the bridge of the guitar, right down the end of the guitar, which is a little bit influenced by how Mark Knopfler plays. I don't play with a plectrum. The reason is you can get different tones out of the guitar. You can get more expression out of the guitar because you're in touch with the string. You're not in touch with a piece of plastic that is then touching the string. You've got this greater sensitivity of how much pressure and therefore the tone you get out of the string. It allows me to play in a different way, more expressive, and get the tones that I want out of the guitar. I also play it very melodically, even if I'm improvising a bit, which is another Mark Knopfler trait. I don't know why, but that beginning and the way this track ends also, just the beat of it reminds me of the Bee Gees. I mean, not here, but I don't know. I don't know where that's come from. Probably, was it, what's that track they recorded? Jive Talking. There's a little bit of influence of that in it, probably. Well, I hope you enjoy the album. I haven't included clips from every track on the album in this because the podcast would just end up too long. But it's been fun to give you some of the background and disasters that went on. Because of the nature of the album, it took a long time to record, 6 months, and it absolutely has worn me out. So I'm going to take a brief break, and then I'll be recording The Portal, which I hope will be released very early in 2016, which will be this Jean-Michel Jarre, Oldfield, Tuba Bells, Oxygen type album, which is going to be fun. Oh, before I go, if I could make a request, and that is, if you enjoy what you're listening to and you like an album that you've bought, do go to the website or on the YouTube pages, wherever you happen to be, and do tell the artists that you've enjoyed what you've heard, because so many people enjoy what they're hearing and then never give any feedback, which robs the artist of that feedback, that they live on and thrive. It's not that they've got egos that need feeding. It's that no one can work in silence. We all like to be appreciated. I mean, if you're at home and you've done a lovely meal and you've tidied the house, who doesn't like their partner to come through the door and say, "Oh, God, that smells good, and that was a fantastic meal," or "the house that was great"? the simplest of things. You know, if we're thanked for them or shown appreciation, it lights the other person up. It's positive energy. And I'd like to see the artists on my label see that appreciation. I know it goes on, because when you talk to people, they tell you, but it's amazing how many people don't. So please, just take a little time when you have the time and just leave some comments of appreciation if that's how you feel. I think it was Billy Connolly, the comedian, who once said that being professional comic, professional anything, is being funny when you've just had bad news from home. And that has always stayed with me, that comment, because it is so true. If you've got bad things going on in your own life and it's difficult, and then I have to come in here and produce music that's happy, and I'm feeling terrible, or I'm feeling unwell, or whatever it is, but you soldier on because it's what you want to do and it's what you believe in. And so when you get those token words of appreciation, it just tells you it's all worth doing. So I don't ask for myself, I'm asking on behalf of everyone that's making music under MG. I hope you've enjoyed listening to my inane waffle. Bye for now.